Welcome to the Midweek Motivation Podcast, where we bring practical help for your faith and life. Here's today's episode.
Hey, well, welcome to this week's Midweek Motivation. Right here to my left, I have Mr. Mike Martindale. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good. Mike and I, God, we've been in ministry for a long time. Like we go back to, in the 90s, Mike was actually in my youth group. I know I don't look that old to be his youth pastor, but he was actually in my youth group and he was one of my leaders. And we worked together with students as you got older and got out of the youth group, and you took over as the youth leader. Yeah. And we worked together in music here at the church. And that was all through the 90s. I mean, we were like literally 10 years. And that was fun.
Now you make me feel old myself.
I know. To think
Could
back
have been the 90s.
Yeah, it's 30 years ago. 33 years ago that we started.
Don't use the numbers.
Yeah. Anyhow, we've been around a while. And so we've known each other a long time, and it's been fun. It's been fun. And so Mike, in fact, is the lead pastor of Epic Life. So how long have you been with Epic Life now?
Well, look, backstory is that I was part of Westside since I was 6 years old. And about 10 years ago, we as Westside launched a campus in Tannersbourne area. And that campus about 3 years ago became an independent church just before COVID. So I've been pastor at Epic Life for almost 3.5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're the worship pastor.
And I'm the worship pastor. I actually wear many hats.
And the janitor?
Yes, sometimes.
Excellent. I remember those days. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, and Epic Life is not too far from here, like maybe 10 miles at best?
Probably more like 5. It's
really?
Not that far, yeah.
So we're neighbors.
Just up the road.
We're neighbors. Well, hey, we on Sunday, Pastor Gabe gave us a message called How Our Kids Will Save or Destroy the World. I love that topic.
I do too.
Save or destroy the world. And he talked about resilience. And the first resilience he talked about was character. He talked about instilling character in our kids and what that can mean down the road when our kids learn the value of having character and what that means to them. Right. And so I've got a few questions for you because I know that we're both passionate about this topic. Because, by the way, if I haven't said already, I'm Tim Wooten and I'm the family ministry director here at Westside. And I love working with the middle schoolers. I love working with the high schoolers. I mean, they're my jam. And installing character and wisdom is probably my two favorite things to teach students. It's something that gets me going, and I love teaching those things because I know the value of those two things, what those mean to students and what those mean as they become adults. Yeah. And so that's definitely a passion of mine. I know it's a passion of yours. So I've got some questions for you because I know this is your passion too. And so I'm gonna ask you a few questions and I'm gonna just let you roll here, okay?
Awesome, shoot away.
All right, so the first thing I wanted to ask you is tell us about yourself and your journey with Epic Life. Because again, you were here at Westside for many years, and then you went to become the lead pastor at Epic Life, and what that journey looks like since you left Westside and becoming that lead pastor.
Yeah, it has been interesting because when I became a lead pastor, it was right as COVID hit. So huge learning curve because not only had I never been a pastor, I'd never been a pastor during a pandemic.
Right.
So, and everyone you ask, like, what do we do? They're like, you figure it out, let me know. No one knew what they're doing. So it was interesting, big learning curve, but an awesome God journey through that season. And it was in like the first year of our church. I believe that every church is, our mission is to help people find and follow Jesus. Hopefully every church has got that on their radar. But what is our unique expression as a local church? Because I believe each church kind of has a certain personality or certain focus of who they are. Mm-hmm. And it was during that 2020, that dark year of so many things. Did you just have the pandemic? Our state was on fire, if you remember, in September. Mm-hmm. Felt like apocalyptic. And all that was going on was the election year. And so we had a lot of division in our nation. You could see a lot of corruption emerging in leadership. There was a lot of stuff on the news about racism, and it's just like, oh my goodness, what do we do with this mess?
It's like a boiling pot, just exploded.
And I remember one time I actually just was like brokenhearted in this 1 week, just thinking, God, what's my role as a pastor? How do I lead our church through this season? Mm-hmm. And he answered me very cleanly that week and said, Mike, the answer to this situation is not going to happen overnight, because what you're seeing right now didn't happen overnight. It's been 40 years, 50 years in the making, and it's going to take a generation to get us out of that, which got my radar on the next generation. So that's kind of sort of our journey as we got started into this whole thing.
Yeah, that was an interesting year. I mean, it literally was like just the boiling pot of water, and everything just exploded at one time.
Yeah.
In fact, I was looking at a Facebook memory popped up today, and it said, "Oh, great, the air quality is 395 today." You know, it was all part of those fires going on in 2020. There's so much stuff going on, so it was kind of a crazy time.
It was a crazy year.
You know, as a church, you have a unique take on serving the next generation. I know that, again, this is kind of part of your passion, taking on the next generation. Talk to us about what led you to make that kind of commitment. What made you want to say, you know, I'm going after this next generation?
It was what I just was talking about, where I felt like God said the answer lies in the next generation, and then a culmination of many of our people in our church asking, what is our church going to be about? And me even asking that question, what are we going to be about as a church? And I did some soul searching. It was, I think, like October of 2020. I was away on a spiritual retreat, and I asked God that question, what do you want our church to be about? And I feel like he gave me this very clear answer. And in about 5 minutes time, I went from not knowing what our vision was to a very concise vision statement for our church that's still our vision to this day. And that is that we exist to equip the next generation to lead cultural transformation as fully devoted followers of Jesus. So it's a mouthful. I'll unpack that. There's three parts that we equip we exist to equip the next generation. It's about us equipping them, giving them the right tools to succeed. To lead cultural transformation is about them being, when they're equipped, when they rise into positions of leadership and influence, that they're the ones leading transformation in our culture. And the last part's the important part, as fully devoted followers of Jesus, because if they aren't fully devoted followers of Jesus, they may influence the culture, but they may take them the wrong direction instead of the right direction. So we say it in 3 words, we're about next generation transformation. So that's kind of why we're focused on that. And that's what our passion is all about.
Nice. You know, I was meeting with another youth pastor today, and I asked her, I said, what kind of value does the pastor put on youth ministry? Do they give you a budget? Do they give you some, they give you some resources to succeed? Because I said there's so many churches in America that they're so focused on the adults and the adult attendance and the online presence and all that kind of stuff that they're forgetting sometimes about the students. And you're seeing this older generation of a church get older and older and older, and they're not being replaced by the young people. And a lot of churches are dying.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Westside and Epic Life both put such a huge emphasis on students, because we know that that's our next generation. Those are our future pastors, our future youth pastors, our future missionaries, our future teachers, our future leaders, right? And I would hope that all churches understand the importance of what we're talking about today, and the importance of putting that value on students, again, that next generation.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't focus on students, the Gen Z generation now is 1 out of every 4 people in the U.S. They're in the workforce right now. If you were to use a baseball analogy, in our church, they're on deck. They're in the batter's box, just getting ready. They're warming up because they're coming up. Some of them, the older ones, are already in positions of influence and leadership. Yeah. And at the same time, this generation, like no other generation, is leaving their faith and actually walking away and saying there is no God. And so we have an opportunity either to turn our back on that, or for us to step in and invest into them and see if we can turn that around. So I'm just passionate about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, another question, because obviously you have strong feelings on installing character, right, in our kids. What things shaped this passion for you personally as you were growing up?
That's a good question. I think for me, if I were to look back at my upbringing, I would point it to certain people in my life. Absolutely, my parents. My parents were amazing, strong character, and they were the same people at church that they were at home. They put a high value on their relationship with God. I saw my parents living out their faith in all aspects of their life. But then there were other people that invested in my life along the way. A lot of them at church, like I remember, you probably know these people because these names will be familiar to you. Mrs. Sherwood, she was my 3rd grade Sunday school teacher. Minnie Stambach.
Yeah.
She was an amazing lady who, I don't know how she did it. I think she led like 60 or 80 kids at one time by herself, running a full production on Sunday mornings.
She was amazing.
She was amazing. And then there's people like you. We talked earlier about how you were my youth pastor. You had a great influence on my life, and all you and Mrs. Sherwood, Mrs. Stombaugh, and then John King, another one I can think of, did a lot to invest in my life, like made sacrifices to invest in my life. And so I guess that's probably the strongest influence I had was the people, not just knowing what Scripture taught, but seeing people in my life invest in my life and then showing me this is the way to walk. So,
and a fun fact, your dad was my youth pastor.
That's true. I forgot about that. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? So in the 1980s, your dad was my youth pastor. I mean, along with Howard Cookston, right? Howard Cookston was in there, but your dad was in there. And then I took over in the late 80s. I think it was like 89. And then I became your youth pastor. And then you became the youth pastor. I mean, it's kind of interesting, the legacy that I got from guys like Howard and I got from Dave, and then pass it on to you. And you've passed it on now to this new generation, which is way cool.
I think for me, when you say that comes to my mind is that any kind of success that I've enjoyed or anything that has helped me grow in my faith, I cannot take credit for it. I am standing on the shoulders of giants who went before me and paved the path for me. And I think that's my passion. I think that's what maybe shapes my passion to want to be that for the people of the next generation.
Yeah. Well, and I got to add, and I know this isn't in my notes, but I've got to add that, you mentioned your parents right off the get-go. And yeah, we can do so much as pastors and youth pastors, instilling character, resilience, all this stuff in this generation. But at the end of the day, it's the parents.
Oh, yeah.
The parents listening to this podcast right now, I hope that they clearly understand that we got your kid for an hour.
Yeah.
An hour a week. And you've got them for, what is it, like 160 some hours a week or something like that, right? You've got them. And it starts at home.
Yeah.
It starts at home because,
sure
again, I look at, being raised by my dad, Pastor Ken, and my mom, your parents. I mean, yeah, you mentioned other people, but you mentioned your parents first.
Yes.
And I think that really is a testament to how important it is that we start at home, let the church help, they can help assist and help with us on Sundays, but the parents.
Yeah, church is like the support team.
We're support.
The parents are the ones in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really important. Another question for you. What practical advice do you have for parents, teachers, grandparents, right, et cetera, leaders in kids' lives, as we all seek to help our kids live out their potential in this world? How can parents and teachers, grandparents help their kids live out that potential?
That's a fairly easy one to answer for me, because we also at Epic Life Church are in a series right now about focusing on the next generation and investing in their lives and seeing them come up and be the hope that we're also desperately seeing for the world to change. And there's three things that come to mind. There's many things we can get wrong as parents, and as a parent of a 16 and a 19-year-old. Sometimes my wife and I would look and go, are we succeeding or not? There's so many mistakes that we've made along the way. I think you can make tons of mistakes, but if you get these three things right, I think this is key. And this applies not just to parents, but as teachers, mentors, grandparents. I talk in our church about if you're part of our church, you're in some way supporting raising the next generation. But if you're in your 80s, what you might be doing is pouring into the young grandparents in our church and showing them how to be good influences with their kids. So everyone has a role to play in the next generation. But these are the three things that I would say that stand out to me. The first one is always be present. Be present with your kids.
Don't always be rushing them off.
Don't rush them off. If they come in and they interrupt you because you're doing work at home, you came home, you had some work to get done, let them interrupt you. It was your dad who taught me years ago that if I'm in a meeting and his kids would call and I was in the meeting with him, he would always interrupt the meeting and take the call. And he told me one time, he said, Mike, when you're old enough that you have kids, they always get through. Your kids always get through. You can always say, hey, I'm in a meeting. Can you call me back? But they always get through. And I learned that placing that priority on their presence being, or my presence with them being important. And I think one of the things that we struggle with, and it's because it's new to us, this whole technology thing with a digital device in our hands. And I told our people this Sunday, I said, I don't want your kids' earliest memory of you growing up was this, looking up and seeing mom and dad with their face in their phone and getting the message that somehow what was on that device was more important than them, that we set that down, put it aside so it doesn't distract us, spend time with our kids. It's not just about quality time. It's about quantity and quality, that we spend quality time with them and we're present. That statement, wherever you're at, be all there, that you're there. That's true if you're a teacher with your students at school. That's true if you're a grandparent. That's true if you seek to mentor other kids in the church or wherever, your place of work or whatever. Be present.
Yeah, I've got to add before you get to
Okay,
two.
go ahead.
I've got to add because I was just thinking that I don't have a memory of my mom doing this. My memory of my mother is being on her bike that she had in the front room.
The exercise
Those
bike.
exercise
That's
bike.
right.
And she always had her Bible out. And I watched every day I'd go by, there'd be mom on that exercise bike with her Bible, reading a Bible. And she had a little place to make notes and all. And that was my memory of my mom, not staring at her phone, being distracted. And of course, if I came in and asked a question, I had her attention immediately. Or if I came down to the church and I busted in my dad's office, he was always like, yes, son, what can I do? What's going on? He was always ready to be there for me. So being present was so valuable because so many parents, I think, were so busy being busy. Right? We're so busy being busy that we don't have time for our kids.
Yep.
And then we wonder why our kids sometimes they go wayward or sometimes they get in trouble because we're too busy for them. We're busy watching Netflix. We're busy looking at our phone. We're busy working. We're busy being distracted.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to stop and say, yes, what can I help you with? What's going on?
Your greatest regrets when you're on your deathbed will not be, man, I wish I had done that project and not let my kid interrupt me. Your greatest regrets will be what you didn't do with your kids and the people that you care about investing in their lives. So that I agree. And I think that first one buys you credit and credibility with your kids, with the younger generation. When you invest, when you sacrifice for them and you're present, you're available to them, I think it allows you then to be able to model for them good character.
Yeah.
So that they can watch you, and because you're present, they respect, they honor you, and they're watching your life and looking to see how you do things. And I think a lot of times we're so worried about trying to teach our kids things by telling them, don't do this, do that, and we're vocal about stuff. But I think we forget that things are better caught than they are taught.
Yeah. And
if we would live it, and don't come to church with your kids on Sunday and act one way and then go home and be completely different. Your kids see that. They learn right away, oh, that's how you live your life for God. And you don't want that. So modeling a lifestyle of following Jesus and having good character, I think, is huge. I remember a time, you probably don't remember this, when I was in the youth group and you were the cool guy in town. You were like probably college age, I think, leading the youth group.
Yeah, early 20s.
And everyone at a low high school where I attended knew you and wanted to hang out with you. And to be able to hang out with you, you were cool.
Which was weird because I didn't even go to low high school.
No, you didn't. But you had this magnetic personality and everyone wanted to be with you and be like you. And so I watched your life very closely. I hung out with you a lot in those days. We'd go run errands together and different stuff. And
Hag Lake.
yes, many trips to Hag Lake. And just watching your life and going, if Tim does it, I want to do it too because he's cool.
Yeah.
And there was something I knew as growing up in a home where we practiced faith in our home, and that I knew I should do, and that was to read my Bible. I knew that was good, but I didn't think it was cool. Until one day you invited me to go on a trip to go see your uncle up in Bellevue. I spent the night with you. I don't know if you remember this. And I think we had sleeping bags. I remember sleeping bags. And right before we laid down for bed at like 11 o'clock, you whipped out your Bible. And I looked and I kind of was puzzled, like, I know you're supposed to read your Bible, but he's the cool guy and he's reading his Bible, and reading your Bible ain't cool. And I remember, and I asked you, he's like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I read my Bible every night before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I'm in high school and I never read my Bible. And it was that moment that I actually made a decision, I need to read my Bible every day. And so just simple things. You have no clue the way you model your life, what it's doing for someone. So that
I could have told you, read your Bible, read your Bible, read your Bible. But if you never saw me read it.
It wasn't it. And I saw you other times doing it too. So it wasn't just you putting on a front or anything. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing, let
me back up. What was the second thing?
The second one is to model good character.
Model good character. I love that.
So be present, model it. And then the third thing I'll give you is to be consistent. You have to be consistent. One of the things that I see right now is I'm looking at the next generation, especially in the church, and how can we turn around what we're seeing happen with Gen Zers leaving the church, leaving faith. How do we turn that around to where they want to be close to God, they want to draw near to Him? And I think one of the things that is alarming to me is the fact that statistically right now, I believe the average family goes to church 1 out of every once a month or 1.5 times a month on average. And if I do my math right, you were saying earlier, we get your kid for 1 hour, you get them the rest of the week.
Right.
That means we get them for 12 to 18 hours at church. 12 to 18 hours. And we're gonna help them transform their life for Jesus? No, it doesn't work that way.
12 to 18 a year.
12 to 18 in a year. How in the world is that going to be possible? So here's one right here. Be consistent. Any chance you have to go to church, if you can put off that camping trip, if you can plan it for a different day, if you can get back early, if you can you can record the game on TV and watch it. I know that's not live is hard, but not watch it live. And you demonstrate for your kids that whenever it's possible to go to church. This is a gift my parents gave me growing up. We went to church every Sunday. I think in my childhood, I remember missing 2 Sundays because of illness. Every other Sunday through my high school years, I was in church every week. This even meant when we were on vacation, the first thing we'd do when we got there is, where's a good church we can go to on Sunday? And the gift that gave me is that it was never a question or debate, do we go to church or not? We go to church. And because of that, every week, 52 Sundays a year, I was exposed to the love of God. I was exposed to teaching about character, about living my life for God, about reading my Bible. And I was also exposed to a group of people who became my closest friends who were on that same journey, rather than getting hooked up with a group of friends that were going the wrong direction. Because here's the thing, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. You look at the next generation, you look at their friends, I can predict their future just by looking who they're hanging out with.
And I can attest to that being a youth pastor here for 10 years now. I see teenagers start hanging out with a certain group of kids, and just give them a month or 2 or 3, and you see which way they go. And it's usually not the right direction.
No, not at all.
What you just said a second ago, my parents, same thing. Sunday mornings, we went to church, period. Of course, we went more than that.
Did you ever think, today I'm going to see if I can talk them out of it?
No.
I mean, you never even thought about it.
No, it's what we did. We went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. We went to church. That's what we did.
Yeah.
And I love that. They instilled that in us. We're going to church on Sundays, and and here's what I love. It was never an option.
Yes.
Hey, Timmy, do you want to go to church today? No. It was, come on, guys, we're going to church. And that's how it is in our household. Let's go. We're going to church. This isn't an option. It's not up for debate. We're not having a Q&A about it. We go to church on Sundays because I know the value of what that does for kids to be faithful in church and to see their parents faithful. Yes. That's part of the challenge with this generation now is we've seen these last generations, the millennials and, the Xers, they've been so sloppy at times that the kids are like, well, my parents only went to church 1.5 times a month. So I'm going to go half to 1 time.
So we demonstrated the value. And here's the thing, that what we'll tolerate, they will embrace. And so if we're tolerating church being optional, they'll embrace it. It's like, oh, that's the way it is. And so we have to model that. And for me, that was the probably single greatest gift my parents gave me growing up for my faith, was going to church every Sunday. Yeah. And then watching them, like you mentioned with your mom, watching them in their quiet time, reading their Bibles and praying. Their consistency for God spoke volumes to me, so that when they were present in my life and they modeled it for me, and I saw that consistency, I was like, that's what I want. And so that's huge.
And what we do in moderation, our kids do in excess,
absolutely.
Right? And so just, we'll end with that right there. Moderation, we do it. Doesn't seem like a real big deal. Man, promise the kids will take it to the next level. I mean, if we're faithful in church, they're going to definitely be faithful in church. If we're sloppy in church, they're going to be sloppy in church. If we're sloppy at reading our Bible, they're going to be extra sloppy. I mean, they're going to take whatever we do and take it to the next level. And so, Mike, thanks so much for your time. And I love it. I'm looking forward to this week's message this Sunday. It's going to be awesome as we continue this series. And so thank you for your time. Absolutely. And good luck as you continue to get past that pandemic that's beyond us now. Yes. Thank God, at Epic Life, and that you guys have huge success this year.
Thank you, and I wish the same for you guys at Westside. Praying for you guys often, and excited and rooting for you on the journey.
Nice. If anyone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Probably the easiest way is just through email, mike@epiclifechurch.com. Pretty simple.
Okay, I'm Tim at westsidemail.com. So pretty simple email. So if you have questions, email away. And thanks for your time, everybody. And
did I say Mike at Epic Life or Epic Life Church?
I don't know what you said.
I don't know my own email. Just mike@epiclifechurch.com. In case I said that wrong. Just playing it back in my head. I'm not quite sure I said that one right.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Midweek Motivation. To make sure you don't miss any content in the future, please subscribe, share, and if you enjoyed this, give us a like. And consider popping by a Westside service some weekend. You can find out more at westsidecommunitychurch.com.
me well. I will not forsake you, O Israel. Oh, miss that song. Yeah.